Bikes Blues and BBQ is a crazy, insane festival where hundreds of thousands of bikers from all over the country come to little old Fayetteville, Arkansas, and it is just nuts.
I mean, anytime you bring 300,000 people into a city, it's going to be controversial. There's going to be businesses that make a lot of money off of that, and then there's going to be some businesses that don't make as much money. So it's a challenge, it really is, particularly as it's grown.
But the flip side is that brings in about $70 million in revenue to our city in about a 4-day period. Fayetteville's grown a lot and it continues to grow, and we want to control that growth. Come on over for a couple of days. Stay in our hotels, eat in our restaurants, come and do some things, and then you can go back to your regular life. You can probably be anywhere in Fayetteville in 10 minutes, to be honest. So you have a town of basically 77,000 people with a small town feel. When I turn on my news, I kind of do like the slowness that, hey, here's the kids from McNair Elementary School citing the Pledge of Allegiance, and Whole Foods is dropping their prices, and then we're going to have a report from the football stadium later in high school football.
In Washington County, there have been 8 serious crimes in less than 2 weeks.
Police expect to see an increase in even more categories this year in comparison to last. That includes rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, and theft. Police point to the constant influx of people moving to Northwest Arkansas as a reason for why some unwanted people are attracted to the area.
Fear of growth comes to me a lot of crime. You look at the big cities. I mean, I've lived in Phoenix and Tucson and St. Louis. Growth brings a lot of good things, but it also brings the bad things. I've been here since 2003, and I've seen a tremendous change, but I still think we're still small. We're not there yet. Probably not going to happen in my lifetime that we're going to go over 1 million. So I think I'm safe. It's who stays after me is who's got to worry, I guess.
People don't like change, that's what it comes down to. It's tougher on the police department as the city grows and we don't keep up with them. The manpower gets spread thinner and thinner, and the calls are more and more, so we get tired, but you're gonna grow. If you want to succeed, you're gonna grow, otherwise the town's gonna die.
I don't think anyone owns a city. I think people have a responsibility, though, that when you do move to a place that you become part of the community. I think that's the most important part. You can't reap benefits of a farmer's market with not introducing yourself to the people that are here and getting to know the people here and in some way giving back to your community. That's the only issue. When a city grows and you have a lot of transient people coming in, they tend to get disconnected. And you build the high-rise apartments and they're just living in the high-rise apartments and shopping at them but not actually being a part of the community. But no, I don't think it's fair to tell other people, there's no originalist in Fayetteville, really,
Everybody that says that moved here from someplace else. I mean, I moved here from someplace else. So how can I tell people you shouldn't move here? We all moved here from someplace else, somewhere along the line.
It's funny because a lot of us that have come from out of town, yeah, you have that mentality, but there's a reason why we moved here. And we don't want everybody else to figure that out. I grew up in Arizona and Tucson, and years and years ago, they said the same thing, and now it's over 1 million too, and people are, oh, it's too crowded. Well, I feel like I found the next spot, and please, stay away for a while.
I'd rather have this area be heavily populated. I don't want to see this area just stay at 80,000 for the next 10 years. More growth is just going to be more beneficial in the long run for this area.
I'm not afraid of changing as long as we're going the right way. As long as we're making the money, as long as taxes are good, we have good schooling, then we're on the right path.
The growth in Northwest Arkansas, one typically would be scared about, especially raising your family and bringing your family here and going, are we going to have the crime like Little Rock that's not really that far away?
We don't want car break-ins, we don't want murders, we don't want that kind of stuff that some of the larger cities have.
I think we've done a lot of good preparing for the growth. You could see it coming 10, 15, 20 years ago. The city council started thinking about how to keep what's special in Fayetteville special. So they started buying up green space. started developing the idea of having walking trails and biking trails, which are all coming to fruition. That took a long time to happen. And writing into the code of how we grow, different restrictions for building, so that when it does grow, you can create the kind of community that you want to have and not have just rampant growth without any sorts of control on it, so that the bottom line is just about money.
Growth has to be managed properly. I mean, I've seen it in Nashville, some communities get drunk or obsessed on the idea of growth being this amazing driver of other money or tourism, but if it's not managed properly, then it can get out of hand, kind of like an invasive species.
You got to understand what the city has been and know where it is today, and also keep an eye on the future where you need for it to go. It's not whether we're going to grow, but how do we grow?
Right now we have a shortage of housing, and the last thing we want to do is have something that happened years ago where a lot of people became, you're a bartender one day and the next day you're a builder, and you don't know what you're doing and you're building housing, and it could be subpar. You get just overwhelmed at growth overnight. So city planning is very important to our area, and it scares a lot of residents.
On Dixon Street, property is becoming so expensive now that the only people that can afford it are the big franchises, and you start losing some of the local flavor when a Common Grounds goes out and a Taco Bell goes in. But I don't know how you stop that. The market still rules, and money speaks.
We all kind of panicked a little bit when Whole Foods came in. It's a national chain. It has this great reputation. It kind of fits in with the little earthy granola kind of thing that, Fayetteville has going on. But at the same time, it came in, and now that whole area of College Avenue is just congested to the point where you don't want to go up there. So there are other businesses suffering.
Cities around the country have been dealing with this. I know in San Luis Obispo, for example, they allow no drive-through restaurants. That automatically does away with a lot of chains. It encouraged the person who was wanting to be unique and have a one-off. And if you come to a town, all you got is the McDonald's and Taco Bells and Starbucks. I mean, that's fine, but if that's it, you're not unique. You can get that anywhere USA.
There's the fear that Fayetteville could lose its funky feel, that will gain more national attention and national chains will come in.
The closest thing that comes in comparison is a university football game, but imagine having 4 football games in a row. That is Bikes Blues and BBQ.
The best way I can describe it is just a sea of motorcycles. It's a constant rumble of bikes.
Imagine, if you can, sidewalks are very congested. There's motorcycles parked up and down Dixon Street. There's all kinds of people walking up and down looking at the motorcycles. 300,000 people over a 4-day period. Cramming as many people into a small area as you can, probably one of the most unique events that we have in Fayetteville, and the fact that you have that many people coming to your city just to enjoy themselves.
Bikes Blues and BBQ is a not-for-profit motorcycle rally. Every penny we make goes back out into the local community. We're very proud of that. A lot of people talk about where we rank in size to the others, and we've heard anywhere from second to third, Sturgis obviously being the biggest. I think that's where the comparisons end, because we do things so much different than all the rest of them do.
Bikes Blues and BBQ to me is a time of year that obviously it brings a ton of revenue into our town. It's a very unique crowd, so it could be a little different than what maybe Fayetteville's used to.
Bikes Blues BBQ still is kind of an infant, if you will. Sturgis just celebrated 75 years, and I think, for us to be 18 years, which is a long time for an event, it's just nothing to be like that 75th.
Everybody that rides wants hills and curves. And so the pig trail, it's switchback after switchback, up and down, nature abounds. Geographically, we have the best rides in the nation as far as so many of them in one location. You can find 17 in the top 100 right here in Northwest Arkansas. And true motorcycle enthusiasts want to ride, they don't want to party. And so they come to this area for the rides.
We tell our sons that we're going to go for a bike ride. We'll be back in an hour or two, and then we come back about 6 hours later.
And we just take our time, and if we see something, we just veer off and go somewhere else.
Once you get out of town, you're into the mountains and the trees. It's just a beautiful area. A lot of curves, the roads are fun. We just try to go somewhere different all the time. That way, we're not missing anything. The roads aren't that busy, so it's a lot nicer to get out and ride, I think.
Wisconsin and some of Minnesota have the twists and the cutbacks and stuff, but nothing like you have here.
We love to get our bike out, ride with friends. We meet a ton of people from all over the United States.
Yeah, we met John and Sheila 3 years ago. We were camped here, they were camped there. This is our family reunion every year. The first year we were here, there was nobody out here behind you. And there was just a few rows of campers out here, in the grass out here. Now if you take and you go down out here, it's past the tree line way down.
Here at the fairgrounds is the official campground of Bikes Blues and BBQ, and then every state and national park that has camping is fully booked. The campers in certain spots, there'll be groups that have been there for the last 7 years. When they leave, they just leave their deposit for the next year.
I know the hotel people love it because they're at 100% occupancy. We have them out at the fairgrounds. They're camping, they're everywhere. They're renting houses from people.
I talked to one lady the other day and she said she can make 6 months payments on her house off using it for a vacation rental during Bikes Blues and BBQ. There wasn't a hotel room south to about Clarksville. And then Joplin, I heard, was completely booked. We've had groups come in from Australia, Germany, and all 50 states were represented with the exception of Alaska.
Most of the bikers have been staying with us for about 7-8 years now. They want to have the same exact room every single time they come in. They usually just book right after the rally's over. They say, we'll see you next year. It gives a big boost in revenue and sales. Those 3-day events can carry over for a month and a half, 2 months as far as just keeping a business going. We're able to raise our rates significantly to where it'll hold us over for the winter months.
Motorcycle culture, they love to get together.
Seems like a lot of the people that come up here, they look forward to this year-round. This is their big vacation that they're taking. Let's get on our bikes and come down to Fayetteville.
We wait all year long for it.
Yeah.
We don't schedule anything during this weekend, and then
this is our anniversary weekend too. So
we wouldn't spend it any other way. So
we love this.
This is usually where all my anniversary gifts come from.
I get off the hook. I get to come here and buy anniversary gifts. It's pretty awesome. So
These are my vacations, and it's just a good time, and it's a good getaway.
You have all these stereotypes you associate with bikers, kind of crude, rough folks. But we had this couple come to our truck last year. It was a husband and a wife, and they were decked out. Snapped their picture, and their daughter commented on it. It's like, hey, that's my mom and dad. And they're the most normal, just like working offices, like normal people ever. From their social media, you would have never thought that they even owned a motorcycle. But they come to Bikes Blues and they're just decked out in leather, and they're here to do the motorcycle thing. Whether or not it's the most fun for us as individuals or us as business owners, it's fun to be around people that are having fun.
Why Bikes Blues and BBQ landed in Fayetteville. Richard Watson, who was the chief of police of Fayetteville, had got a new Harley, and he'd been going all over the country to these rallies. Got a group of businessmen and said, we need to do a rally here. But he had the forethought to know that it can't just be a Sturgis or a Daytona. He set up a not-for-profit. And so the original Bikes Blues and BBQ was made just to benefit the Area Council on Aging, Meals on Wheels.
I always tell everybody that Bikes Blues and BBQ is basically adult Halloween.
There's a lot of great outfits. that come into Bikes and Blues and riding their bikes. And I mean, there are just some that are just decked out. We meet a lot of lawyers and doctors, and this guy, you would have never, ever, ever known that he was a brain surgeon. All leathered out, crazy hair, and he's like, yeah, I'm a brain surgeon.
And they come in on some amazing high-end bikes with the rigs. We've actually had people fly into Drake Field and unload their motorcycles from their private jets.
Gives people a chance to leave our life behind. Let's become a biker and let's go out and do what bikers do. They can come out and they can put their leathers on and then they load up and go home back to their regular life.
When the sun goes down in Galveston and Daytona, I went to looking to go back home. In Daytona, you had naked girls running around by 8 p.m. In Galveston, the Outlaws set up a tent and were selling shirts that say, support your local outlaws. Well, those are all things that people don't get here. We've never really had any issues. As a whole, every year, our arrest totals are less over a 4-day period than one home football game.
You will see people down there with their families pushing their strollers. So I think the clientele's a little different. They're a little bit more well-behaved. But that's what Sturgis is. It's crazy, it's insanity. That's what it's built upon. Bikes Blues and BBQ isn't built on that.
Bikes Blues and BBQ was here long before I ever came into this office. It's probably our oldest and certainly our largest and probably the most successful festival that we have in this city. When you get 300,000 or 400,000 people into the area, you're going to have congestion. There's no doubt about it. The congestion got really bad for a few years. And to Bikes Blues and BBQ credit, they listened to what people say and they started spreading it around.
They shut down Dixon Street, really the whole entertainment district area. It's pretty much done for.
Downtown is always packed and people come early and they usually find some place to sit on Dixon Street and they watch bikes go up and down the street.
And if you're not seeing a motorcycle, you're seeing a vendor tent or trailer. It's like a carnival or like a fair without all the rides, but the rides are replaced by motorcycles.
We like the way that they've grown with the crowd and tried to keep things of interest for people and give us a lot of variety.
We have grown to 4 official venues now.
You're talking about the logistics of moving 350,000 people through an area and doing so safely.
There's a lot of coordination and parts that go into each place.
Baum Stadium's our biggest venue. They're moving 70,000 people a day through there. If you want to go over there and get some new LED lights put on your bike, or if you want to go over there and run a dyno test on your bike, that's your place. Harley Davidson, Yamaha, Indian are all going to have their demo trucks. It's all things motorcycle. We're growing this 4th venue, so Arvest Ballpark is kind of the one that's finding its way.
I think the biggest challenge is keeping the event fresh, bringing new things to the event. It's just easy to keep doing the same things over and over.
People come to town and they hit the vendors they want to hit on one day, and then the next 3 days they're out riding.
Fayetteville's so great about having so many festivals and doing things for the city that get people out and get people excited about living in Fayetteville.
If you want to get out and be in the nature, or if you want to go and do some kind of festival.
A lot of times we'll skip out of town, go fishing, go over to the White River. Because it's not crowded over there because everybody's over here.
That's Northwest Arkansas. I mean, it really is. It's a comfortable lifestyle.
Fayetteville's fun, it's funky.
Eclectic, friendly, community-centered.
Everything is unique about Fayetteville.
We have a little bit of a flair. I think we're more on the artsy side of the community with the wonderful things that the Waltons have done with the Art Center and the things that each city tries to do, whether it's Fayetteville, Springdale, Bentonville, Rogers. the flavor of just, different festivals and things like that. There's always something going on.
A lot of artists and writers live here. A lot of sports fans live here. So there's kind of like a couple different towns within the same small town. But to me, it's just a nice, quiet, small town.
Growing up here all my life, it really is a bubble in itself. It's just such a neat dynamic of people that come in here, visiting, staying.
It's a really wonderful, eclectic mix of people here.
I look at Fayetteville as cozy, but progressive, and it's charming. I love the scene, the farmers market scene. It's very community oriented. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody supports everybody. Local businesses support across. It's huge into that.
I mean, I've lived all over the country and worked all over the country. And there's a reason why when I retired, I moved back here. Because of just the people, the kindness, the small town feel, a college feel. I just love it.
Fayetteville's amazing. It is probably one of the best secrets in the Ozarks. It's home of the University of Arkansas. Many, many people come here to retire or to enjoy just the laid-back atmosphere of Fayetteville.
It's a young, relaxed place. Most of it is college-driven. We do have like a nightlife as far as Dixon Street, but a lot of the daytime activities include like parks, trails, and the breweries here.
The local identity, well, we're eclectic and we're a little bit roguish, I would say. There's a lot of people who help their neighbors when people have problems or health issues. There's a strong community here that will engage to help people out.
It's not really like a rowdy area. It's pretty just laid back. I mean, most of the people here are pretty friendly as well. We don't have too much violence going on.
We have a very low amount of crime, specifically violent crime. We average, somewhere around 2 to 3 homicides a year. And while that's one is too many, when you compare ourselves to other portions of the state, even the country, that's a very low crime rate. The biggest that we have here is property crime. I cannot convince people in this town to lock their doors. Fayetteville still has that small town feel that a lot of people want to do.
I moved here from New Orleans. The main road into Fayetteville was 71, which I felt like I was coming into the middle of nowhere because that is such a windy road. But right now, Fayetteville's dynamic, creative, exciting. We're in a growth spurt. For me as a business person, it's exciting. I started in 1992, and I was the first coffee shop in Fayetteville. I started places on Gregg Street, crossover, and in different places. I wanted Arsaga's coffee be synonymous with local coffee.
We like it. We like the people. Yeah, like the climate. We moved here from Iowa in 1989, and we like the climate because we didn't have the cold winter like we did in Iowa. So we enjoy this place.
The scenery here is so spectacular. Everything is just so green.
The cost of living is amazing in Fayetteville, but at the same time, it's like, come visit, but get out, okay? You can't stay here. No, we kind of mean it, but we kind of don't.
Can we keep it a secret? But everybody keeps publishing it.
Come visit and go home. We don't want the traffic.
People who've lived in much larger populations, freeway bridges stacked one on top of the other, and bumper-to-bumper traffic, and those kind of things are some of the fears about too much growth. I hope that reasons that people want to come here, maybe a slower lifestyle than where they came from.
Fayetteville is one of the best places in the country to live. The site's based on cost of living, attractions, business, climate, and other monetary factors.
Fayetteville always ranked in one of the top places to live in the country. Seems like every year there's another list coming out and we're always in the top.
Breaks my heart because it's bringing in people that want to change the flavor that we have here. They come in and expect us to have the same infrastructure as Dallas or Atlanta or New York, and they're taken away from what makes us special here, which is the green, which is the rurality of our area. I don't like it. Keep Fayetteville funky. That's why I tell people I live in Tickville, Arkansas, because we do have Rocky Mountain spotted tick fever. We have all of that. And you can't dig a hole in this area with anything less than C4 and a backhoe.
I know Every time one of those surveys comes out or those magazine articles comes out talking about Fayetteville's the top city to retire to or to come to, I'm just like, no, please don't do that. I don't even want to share that stuff on Facebook with people because I don't want them to see it.
Well, I tell you, I don't like the traffic. The traffic is just tremendous. So, this is one of the things that's got to be kept improving is the roads and things like this, because there's just not enough roads.
So much growth. It blows my mind every time we come back to visit multiple times a year, and I'm like, that's new. That's new. When did they put that there? What is this? I didn't have a say. I remember back in the days, Dixon Street was just spindly, kind of crooked Dixon, and now it's straight and beautiful, and it's great. It's, towns need to do that, but I remember the old days when it was just this crunchy little town, As long as it can still stay cozy and charming, get big, get huge, get popular, that's great. I hope that there can be that balance.
It's changing, it's really changing. When I moved to Fayetteville, it was kind of like a growing small town, and now kind of verging into like a bigger small city to where it's like, can we say that we're still a small town?
It's everything that you expect a college town to be, but in a beautiful area. It really has a lot to offer with a extremely laid-back feel. If the University of Arkansas wasn't here, Fayetteville would still be a great city. I've lived in cities where people don't care, but people around here really do care about the city.
We moved from Maine to Northwest Arkansas and came here for law school. And we had no idea what Northwest Arkansas was. And getting into town and greeted at the door, people were holding the door, and I'm like, this is for real. It's that southern great, and it's growing, but it's still fantastic.
My family moved here in the early 80s from Los Angeles. There really hasn't been as many added rooms as like other markets such as Dallas, Nashville. They're just completely getting saturated. Whereas in this area we have maybe 2 hotels coming in that are actually signed and gonna add more rooms. With the other cities, they got 30, 40, 50. So right now, Fayetteville is a little bit more stable with the hotels, but I know in the future there are gonna be more developments.
Seems like a lot of people in Fayetteville really gravitate towards that local business. I know lots of towns have a farmer's market. Fayetteville really embraces their farmer's market, and we really embrace local business.
The whole city of Fayetteville kind of revolves around the atmosphere of the farmer's market. To be a vendor, you have to live in the 4-county area. You have to grow or produce or make whatever you have. You can't go out and purchase it somewhere else, put it together as a kit. A few years ago, Fayetteville Farmers Market was voted the best large farmers market in America. Bikes Blues and BBQ, actually year after year, the Saturday of that week, that's the slowest day for the farmers market throughout the whole year.
They're here strictly for bikes and blues. We sell very little stuff when they're here. So that's one of the activities that don't help us out.
It brings in a lot of people and it brings in a lot of dollars to our area, but not to the market. It actually hinders our market here. Our regular base stays away during Bikes Blues. They're intimidated by the traffic. This is my livelihood, so it matters. Personally, I'm married to a biker. I love the bikes. I love that part of it. I just wish I saw a little more of it in my own personal income level.
Some vendors, that historically their sales are low enough that they just choose not to come that Saturday. We've tried different things. We even talked about not having the farmer's market on that Saturday, but we've decided that's not fair to the vendors who really want to be here, because many of the vendors here, this is their sole livelihood. Don and Charles are the owners. They opened this place together, so they've been doing it for close to 40 years. Weekends are very busy. Saturdays are our busiest day. So the week is essentially preparing for the weekend.
Since we started making the best of bookshop list, we've noticed visitors from all over the world, people who are kind of like checking the bookstores to visit off of their like bucket list. A good weekend is, you know, in the thousands, and a Bikes Blues and BBQ weekend is closer to none. In the book business, every weekend counts. So out of 52 weekends, you really need 52 weekends to stay open, really. Our impact is kind of like dulled because we're not really selling anything that they're buying. So it's kind of just, we're catching up on some behind the scenes work normally when the festival is happening. The main challenges are just people who want to use the store as a public bathroom or like a place to just recuperate, which we try to avoid. A lot of local businesses close. We try to maintain the same hours just for the people that want to stop in and get some books. Being in the book business is, you know, incredibly difficult. Most bookstores are closing at this point, so in theory, we would like to have the weekend where people could come buy books if they wanted to, as opposed to feeling afraid to come on Dixon because they're not going to be able to drive or not going to be able to walk into the door.
And it started and we just had a few motorcycle folks in and a few booths up, and now it's like 4 days of just solid. All day, all night. And some people, they don't like the helicopter rides because they're noisy, and some folks don't like the noise of the motorcycles.
The traffic's horrible. So I feel like that's the biggest thing, right? I mean, it's just getting around.
But you can't judge it based on, oh, there's a lot of traffic and it's loud. You know, I mean, maybe to a certain extent, but I don't know if that's fair for them, because if people are coming, then it's a successful event, and so I don't know how to judge it. Other than I can say I don't like it, but that's not really fair to them because it's just not my bag, you know.
The very first one, you know, it was on Dixon. People were everywhere. The vibe was fun. It was up. It was positive. It wasn't overwhelming, and it wasn't intimidating, and I enjoyed it. But I feel like every year that passes, it just gets more and more and bigger and bigger.
It doesn't really benefit my workplace. Kind of outgrown its welcome, in my opinion. I'm kind of through with it.
Not everybody thinks that's a great festival. I just hope that people understand that we're an accepting, progressive city, and that we have to be accepting and progressive of everybody that comes in.
It'll start getting loud around Wednesday nights. By Thursday night into Friday morning, it is full on. Usually our schools take a teacher day on Friday so that our kids are out of school. That's how much traffic and how it's impacted the community.
We're nestled in the hills of the Ozarks. Our traffic patterns, it's not built on a grid. Some of our main thoroughfares are still 2-lane roads. We have one major north-south thoroughfare through the city, being North College Avenue.
I've lived in downtown Fayetteville, and I walk or bicycle everywhere I go. Anytime other than the Bikes Blues and BBQ, you're probably safe walking on a crosswalk in front of a car, but it's definitely not the case. It's not really safe to drive around or walk around. If you're normally thinking someone's going to stop at a red light or something, that's not going to happen during Bikes Blues and BBQ. You know, people are just going to keep going. Essentially, it's just martial law for a week.
To me, it feels different than the normal kind of Fayetteville vibe. Like Roots Fest feels like a Fayetteville entity. That feels like Hot Springs, actually. And I say that as someone who's from Hot Springs, but it doesn't feel like a Fayetteville event to me. But I mean, just everyone that I talk to that lives here is not a fan. It does not attend anything that has to do with it. And these are people who are really tapped into Fayetteville as a community, but they're not. There was not a conversation about what you were going to do at Bikes Blues and BBQ. It's where were you going to go during Bikes Blues and BBQ? That was kind of the thing, you know. Like there was a hurricane coming, you know.
There's always a few people that aren't happy that we're here. I understand. I try to put myself in their position, but I also look at nobody is taking away a big pile of cash and leaving town. Every penny that comes into this area stays in this area, whether it's through us or through the businesses in this area, through the hotel, motel, hamburger tax.
It's a great opportunity for us to capitalize on money coming into our town that's not always here.
It's Christmas in September. They'll turn enough money to carry them through the holidays whenever the kids go home and that sort of thing. It's a big shot in the arm to where a lot of employees don't get laid off during the downtime.
Obviously, it's an incredible impact on the city. They're talking about 300,000 or 400,000 by their estimates, bikes coming to town. And of course, they bring their own show with their own, retailers and food trucks. So they bring a lot of people into Fayetteville that maybe wouldn't have come here. Downtown, I think it's hard for a lot of local businesses just because it's gotten so big. A lot of your local people leave, so a lot of your local residents or your customers aren't here.
Bikes Blues and BBQ, it's kind of a spectator event. I remember the first one. It wasn't much of a going concern. Our chief at the time was one of the organizers, Richard Watson, kind of helped start it.
I was a patrol officer when we first started, and it was 300 or 400 bikes. And so watching it grow to where we're bringing in 300,000 or 400,000 people in a 4-day span now has been phenomenal. I mean, it's massive. I mean, you're bringing in a metropolitan area into one small location.
And then as it got bigger, we realized, okay, we had to do something. So we had 2 officers come up here from Daytona PD to give us some tips and advice because they'd had bike rallies for years. And one of the things that they were surprised about was how family-friendly it was. They said that, during Daytona Beach, you saw maybe 1-2 strollers down there with little kids. They're everywhere here. About that 5th year is whenever we go, okay, don't even plan on taking a vacation during Bikes Blues. We look at arrests. Where are they from? What were they arrested for? And statistically speaking, the majority of arrests that we make are locals. It's people that honestly we would be dealing with on any given weekend, whether there was a motorcycle rally in town or not. We do get some complaints of people going through neighborhoods. There is an ordinance about the rapid throttle advance or engine revving. And a lot of those happen on Dixon Street late in the night hours whenever they get stopped at a light and they're trying to rev it and the crowd's pumping them up. We can usually just solve that before we have to take it to the next level. For officers, it's just when you're down there, you're on your feet for several days, it can be very physically exhausting.
We make our money at the rally several ways. Entrances into the barbecue contest, sponsorships, vendor spots, VIP ticket sales, anything along those lines. Our number one source of income is beer sales.
Three Dogs Custom Apparel kind of developed with Bikes Blues and BBQ. In 2002, I was a freshman in college playing ball for the university. When I came down to Bikes Blues and BBQ and realized that it was nonprofit, and a lot of the money went back to all the charities, I wanted to be a part of it. I met my business partner, Tom Pagnozzi, and then a bar owner, JP Warren, and we started printing t-shirts for Bikes Blues and BBQ in 2002.
When we started this, we didn't think nothing that like it would be like what it is today. Bikes and Blues has been a huge part of our business. Being more part of the community, I got involved a lot more, and then when Clint and I came on board, things blew up for us.
I don't have a motorcycle. I'm not in a biker club, but I wanted to help charities, and I knew what the event was really about, and that was to help others. Myself being an artist, I was just amazed by coming down and looking at all the motorcycles and all the art on the gas tanks and the shirts and the designs, and it's a different type of art. What inspires me the most is seeing someone wear a shirt with my artwork on their back and having a smile on their face and enjoy wearing it.
It's the only rally of its kind that's nonprofit. So once all the bills are paid associated with the rally, all that money is allocated to local charities. So those are charities that typically don't get a big piece of the pie, like Meals on Wheels, Big Brothers Big Sisters, domestic violence services, scholarship funds that impact our local community.
My favorite part of the rally is after it's over and it's done and we give away all the money. Seeing what it means to those people, the rally's fun and the rally's great, but the rally is a means to an end for us to give away a boatload of cash to nonprofits that need it.
Our Camp Alliance team, we are the only organization that does what we do across the states. We find community partners to make sure that our military is taken care of and their families, and we work at that unit level. There's not funds for that in the defense budget. 51% of our combat forces use our reserve forces that come out of our communities. It gives us the freedom to film this film, or work in a high-rise tower or be in any position. It's because of our men and women that serve. Each unit, we can only give $1,000 per federal regulation. Doesn't sound like a lot, but what they can do with that $1,000 when in a deployment event or anything like that. Our service members and family members are the ones that volunteer at Bikes Blues, and then their volunteer hours and what we raise in the beer gardens and the saloon and for parking is what we offer their military unit.
There's hundreds of volunteers that come out that are local, that none of them have motorcycles, but they're giving back. They're giving back their time to raise money and give back to charities locally, and it's really a unique thing. Without our volunteers, we don't have a bike rally.
We've taken over the fairgrounds as far as lawnmower poles, barbecue choice awards, Miss BBB, Mr. BBB. It's more than just a motorcycle rally. This is probably our largest fundraising event locally for our military. There are so many veterans that ride bikes. The stories that we hear at the rally from those veterans and where they come from, and they come back to our venue. They look for the troop rally every year. By having charities involved in highlighting our charities and being a charity event, it makes it a place that you want to come back to. The economic impact is incredible for Northwest Arkansas, absolutely incredible, because the reality is if we did not have Bikes, Blues, and BBQ in our community, we would be missing the boat. We don't change because they're here. We embrace that they're here. I know a lot of people like to stay inside and go, hey, I'm good. They can come visit, but I'm good just staying inside. The exposure we get from this great rally is second to none. Every year, we are able to do more for them, and they're able to do more for us. I don't know what it would be like not to have Bikes Blues as a partner.
Well, I think the topic of Bikes, Blues, and BBQ, more so than any time in the past, is now being openly discussed because it's so big, and there are pros and cons. There was a time before when if you were con, you were not looked upon favorably. But I think people are realizing, they're being more educated about, it isn't all positive. There are some negative things for local businesses that people didn't realize. And what are those things, and how can you make it different? So it is definitely a controversial topic if you talk about it. How we deal with that in the future, I really don't know. I don't know even how you would limit it if you wanted it to. I mean, maybe limiting if you reduced it to 2 days. There's maybe ways to deal with it. Anything you do, there's going to be strong opinions. You see motorcycles everywhere. It can be a little loud. It's a little exciting, but it's Fayetteville.
Leading up to Bikes Blues, college is back in session. It's in the fall. We're pretty steady, and when Bikes Blues hits, we drop around 15 to 20% in sales that week. Earlier this week, when I was talking to all the other truck owners, their plan was to open up Wednesday nights. A lot of them don't open up on Wednesday nights, but I think all of them did last night. After talking to them, I think basically everyone was saying that they didn't really have good nights, and then they were planning on open during the day the next 3 days. And so we're on Thursday now, and we're just barely mid-afternoon, and of all the trucks that have opened for lunch, I think only 3 of us remain. So they've closed down, they've seen that they haven't really sold anything, and so they're like, nah, forget it, and just kind of left, and hopefully they'll be back tonight. If Bikes Blues never happened again, as a business owner, I'd be cool with it. I'm okay with it. But it's just kind of a cool little Fayetteville staple, I feel like. So on a personal level, I'd be kind of bummed.
I've been open years doing Bikes Blues and BBQ, but my business drops 50 to 60%. So what we've done is just close down for the entire week and just make it a week of deep cleaning, repairing, and doing those types of things. Some people try and do something different. They'll try and change their menu. We tried that, that didn't work for us. Closing down for a whole week is hard, but people who want to work and need the money, you know, they can pick up time here cleaning. And there are some places that don't do that. The staff, obviously, they're without a job, which is unfortunate.
I certainly can't tell somebody what to do with their business. You know, they know what's best, but there are quite a few locals that do close their businesses. And then there's quite a few on Dixon Street that make their entire year in 4 days.
It all depends on your business of how Bikes Blues is going to affect you. A lot of the bars will be sustained from this 1 week. You'll do really well on Wednesday. You'll double your numbers on Thursday that you did on Wednesday. Friday, you'll double what you did on Thursday, and Saturday, you'll double what you did on Friday. They'll be able to pay rent for an entire year because of the impact they'll have this 1 week.
There's so many different people coming in and staying. I've been preparing for 90 days for Bikes Blues. The past 90 days, it's been chaotic, but it's been a fun chaotic because you know what to expect. You're gonna go home with cuts on your hands, blisters on your toes, because you're looking at, 72 hours of nonstop. You have thousands of people out there that want in. It brings in a revenue that no one expected. And every year, it's just more and more.
And I think one of the biggest misconceptions is they think they're Hell's Angels riding in, you know, flags going, craziness. It's not that way.
I used to have bad connotations, like, you know, very like Southern heritage based. And some of those have been justified, but some of those have been proven wrong.
Some people have chosen not to embrace it at all, and that's their choice, and others have gone full head in and have had a very profitable, exciting time.
Obviously, it has a huge economic impact when you consider all the hotel rooms and gas and people renting out their houses, schools renting out their parking lots, you know, raising money for the PTAs. So, you know, that's why it's controversial. You know, there's pros and cons, strong pros and cons to both sides. Is it something that really is promoting what Fayetteville, you know, is noted for? I mean, the counter argument is that it brings a lot of people to Fayetteville who wouldn't come, and that's something that needs to be considered too. Although we're on the map, people are going to come here, and they're not. One of the big changes that could make it different for a lot of the businesses in downtown is when you have the rally, if you didn't have all the food courts. Those people who were coming here would then have to go eat at a restaurant. For example, we have, you know, the Joe Martin bike race. We have the Chili Pepper Run. We just had Roots Festival. Those are all events that bring people to Fayetteville. And the people that come are also going to the local restaurants, the local retail stores, because there isn't the supporting show. I think that's the type of event that I would like to see the city encourage to come here. Austin, Denver, towns that actually had event ordinances because they grew really fast and they started having so many events. I was talking to a gentleman from Austin. He came to Fayetteville when I was talking about this ordinance, and his comment was, it's good that you're dealing with this now because right now there are so many festivals and events in Austin, it's killing us. People don't even want to be in downtown anymore because there's just too much going on. And they actually reduced some of the events. So my goal was, before an event became really big. Before, 1 day fine, 2 days fine. But when you go to 3 days, before it made that leap, I went into city council to open it up to citizen input, to talk about what's working, what's not working. Is this something we want to get bigger? Do we want to leave it at this size? Do we want to encourage it? Just to have some input into the decision-making process, not make it just a permitting process, but when you're that big, you should have literally citizen approval through our city council. So that was the concept behind it. It didn't pass. It got somewhat of a consideration, and we're going to get to a point where we're going to have to deal with it, and we'll just look at it again and either adopt it or not. But it's sooner or later, I figure we'll adopt it.
I remember at Doe's, they didn't like it in the beginning. Now he sells out. He closes the door. He changed it from a big steak to something different. You just got to figure out your niche and make it happen. The thing that I've noticed from the motorcycle riders, if they feel the sense that you're against them, they don't want to be around you. They really don't. If you're accommodating to them, they are the nicest people in the world. But if they sense that you don't like them, they're going to move on. And that's just their mentality. A lot of the locals don't like the 4-day event. If it's an inconvenience, it's just like a football game. If you're not going to the football game, you're not going down to Dixon Street that day. It's packed for Friday night and Saturday night. It's an inconvenience. But do we say we don't want that? No. You just got to learn to live with it, give and take a little bit with it. And if you're a business person, figure out where your niche is to get involved so it can enhance your business.
It's all coming back to us, which means the money we get taxed goes back into the city, which means we get better things, better schooling, better education. It all trickles down. Some people just need to look at the bigger picture here and not think, I'm hurt by it.
It's been said over the course of a 4-day motorcycle rally, we bring in more tax revenue to Fayetteville than an entire home football season.
So you can put up with a little noise and a little discomfort because it is profitable. And it turns a lot of people onto our area that maybe have never been here, that are going to come back on slower weekends and spend some more revenue and enjoy our city for what it has to offer in our area.
I never want to fall into the category where I try to please everybody. But, I always just ask people whenever they are upset, are there other things in life that you enjoy that other people tolerate? If it's more good than it is harm for the community.
If it was to leave, it would be a huge impact. It would bring a tear to my eye to see because it would be devastating.
I think a lot of our charities would suffer because even if they allocate you $2,500, $2,500 can go a long way to some charities.
Bikes and Blues is a very unique event, bringing people from all over the country, and they spend their money here. I don't see how you can't think that it's a great opportunity for us to capitalize on that.
The local tax base would be damaged. It would be hard to build local parks, do sidewalk expansions, the trail expansions at the rate that we're able to do them at.
Hotels can ensure that they're full. Prior to Bikes Blues and BBQ, the only 6 days that they really knew they would have 100% occupancy would be football games and graduation. It's a little bit to put up with, but the return on investment is huge. It's just part of living in a city like this. When you have this much to offer, people are going to want to come check it out.
I love that we're living in a community where people want to come to, but then
where we live, hopefully it doesn't grow that way.
It's a very progressive town, growing way too fast for most of us. Anybody that comes here typically wants to stay, so we'll have to be real conscious of that growth and making sure we keep that balance. Don't want to lose Fayetteville that we all know.
Now, I talked to Tommy Sizemore. He's the executive director of Bikes Blues and BBQ. He says the presence here has been more overwhelming than last year. The attendance has gone up. You're live on Dixon Street. Peyton Yeager, KNWA, Northwest Arkansas.
This is such an amazing area of Arkansas, and people now know. Being in the top 5, we're saying something here. Hey, we're doing something right. You might want to take a page from our book.
It's magical, it really is. You can be in Fayetteville and you'll always be 20 minutes away from something cool. So that's unique. And I think that's what's attracting so many people, because you don't get that everywhere.
There's more jobs that we need in Fayetteville to support that if people were to move in. That puts a strain on school systems and traffic and other things.
We were off the map and no one cared about it, so it was mainly locals. But now as we're growing, everybody wants to be here. It's an interesting balance to try and maintain. I think our city can do some of those things that does encourage local businesses to flourish and have an opportunity to compete against the larger chains by kind of deciding what kind of restrictions you want to put on. There's a lot more entrepreneurial spirit out there than I've noticed in the past. And maybe that's not a necessity. People have to be creative and try and figure out how to make a living. I think we're almost in our golden years because we're growing, it's exciting, but we don't have all the problems of the Austin or the Denver or the Boulder that so many people in. There may not be any way to avoid that in the future, when so many people work here and live here and move here. But I think we're thinking about it. And we're trying to make cities livable, walkable.
Northwest Arkansas has done really well on making this place such a beautiful place. The people that work on the roads and the bike trails and everything, it just gives a safe, comfortable lifestyle.
And a lot of our tourists are seeking those types of experiences. They can go do corporate America, they can do Dallas and the metropolitans, but they're looking for something real. So yeah, it's a very laid back, slow type of culture, that slow movement that really works well here.
If we end up being like Austin, what's really so bad about it? We're a business, that's good for us. There's always that fear anywhere you go. You can't run a business off fear. You can't, live off of fear. If it happens, then we take the next steps. You look back 15 years ago, and none of this was here. When we were living off the 90s mocha, you had hemp, you had tie-dyes. Trust me, I've seen it all, I've been there, I've wore it. I don't want to go back. If you're afraid of changes, you don't make money, nothing gets developed. Progress is progress, and some people may not like it, but you're still driving on that 4-lane road. There's some back dirt roads if you want to take those, by all means.
If a town isn't growing, it's dying. I mean, you can go to towns all over the United States where people are leaving. You don't want to be that town. Make it, as it grows, to become what you want it to become. Participate in the process of thinking how you can make it better. I want to welcome people here. Everybody says, if we have it really nice, don't let anybody know, you're going to ruin it. And, it doesn't matter, it's going to happen.
If you don't depart from where you are right now into a place you've never been, you're never going to arrive where you're supposed to be. That means you're stuck right where you are.
My hope would be that we continue growing in a healthy way, continue to be even more livable than we are now, and look back and go, oh, we haven't ruined our town. It's actually better.